Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Jacksnax. Today I'm going to walk you through that solo I just took over the Grateful Dead classic, Brokedown Palace. Alright, here's the breakdown for my Brokedown. Alright, so I come in playing over the F chord, A7, B flat, F, G7, F, G7, B flat, solo starts, okay? So over top of that kind of, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, that pre-solo section, I actually did some stuff. A few of my subscribers have emailed me and asked me, hey, show that part two in the lesson. So what am I doing? I'm just harmonizing the melody. The fare thee well, fare thee well. So what's that? I'm going to come up to the 10th fret and form part of an F chord. So that's off of our third of the F, okay? It's going to be that A note. We're going to play it here, 10th fret B string, right? B, B flat, A. And we're going to harmonize it beneath it with that C. That's the 5th of our F chord, right? We could go... right? And then change to the A7 chord, and then B flat chord, right? But we're not going to do that. I'm just going to select certain notes and play this little idea, like this thirds, right? Or sixth, they're the same inverted, right? So we're going to come up. That little B flat note can be put out there just to add tension over the melody. Because we're about to go up one fret. Okay, so the C comes up to C sharp here. And that affords you the ability to use your ring finger to play the B flat underneath. You don't have to though. Then the whole shape comes up a little bit to form the third and the root of our B flat chord. We're going to hammer on up here to the 9th of our B flat chord. Okay, like that. Right? So again, that's over the F chord, right? And then to the G chord. So there's a lot of little microtones that are used a lot by singers to create tension. And there are notes that you wouldn't think you would want to put in your solos, but you gotta if you want to emulate the human voice, which is, you know, something we all have, so therefore we all connect to it in a very meaningful way. So emulating human vocal patterns and tendencies is a good thing as an instrumentalist. So if we're doing listen to the river, so a little slide in maybe, or a hammer on, even if it's just one fret, maybe not even all the way up to that, right? Not, but so those blue notes, deliberately putting the A flat where our ear is expecting to hear, hearing, it kind of toughens it up a little bit, but really what it does is it just adds a certain soulfulness to it, like makes it a little less, you know, I am doing the scale tones, okay? So sometimes choosing that little bit of blue tone, right? Just for that little second of tension, it creates the sensation of resolution in a more meaningful way. All right, so again, over top of that is, again, up one. Use that if you want. Up fret. ninth of the B flat, then back, your choice, or, right, then, but we're gonna come in, or, see how that, so that was using the A and then finally using the A flat or G sharp. And then we just kind of pedal on the F chord right before we switch pickups and then come in with the vocal melody proper. So right now I'm using the middle pickup with, I don't even have a tone control on that. I know whenever I'm using the middle pickup all by itself, I'm always shooting for that kind of overbright Garcia sound that I like from like 72 to 75, something like that, right when he was using the alligator. That was my jam for sure, and up until like some of the Wolfie stuff before he went to the humbuckers and that guitar. And I'm using a Kemper profiler that I've tweaked out a couple of presets. Basic clean sound is something like this. Relatively generic. There's a little bit of delay and reverb. And then I have another little bit of extra delay and reverb for songs like this where it goes, okay, so it's a little bit more cavernous. And then this is a little bit of overdrive. Okay, but the good thing about this overdrive is as you dig in more, you get more. You want to be able to have access to some overdrive and then back off with your right hand picking pressure to create these kind of Garcia sounds. So if you're playing with too little overdrive or too much overdrive, it's really difficult. So I'm very, very aware of how hard I'm picking each string. And the overdrive helps to actually compress the signal enough so that you can be quiet and very audible. And then you can dig in more and it won't get too out of control, but it'll sound louder and more intense. Okay, so that's a little breakdown of the way my sound is set up. I get a lot of questions about, you know, tonal stuff. So if you're interested, that's what's happening. All right, if not, sorry to ramble on for the last couple of minutes. So solo, right? What's the strategy? I'm shooting at the implied or specifically stated vocal melody. With a tune like Brokedown with such an incredible vocal melody, you're a dummy if you don't learn it. Just take the time to play along with the record and try to sing the vocal melody, all right? And that's really all I'm doing. That's my entire strategy for this, except when I get a little bored or there's spaces in between or concepts that I like as an instrumentalist, I kind of apply them to the underlying chord harmonies. All right, enough of my yakking, let's boogie. All right, so we're up here. That's our first lick. So we're gonna do a 1 fret bend. And we're kind of pre-bent to that G sharp note. Okay, now I'm digging in there. I'm actually giving full gas with my right hand. The rest of it is kind of, it pokes and then pulls back. And then pokes again on that C note. All right? Then come up to that C and then come up to, all right, I think I slid. So over the B flat chord, I use some techniques that I've developed over the years of doing these like 3-fingered chromatic pull-offs. All right, and you have to make sure that each of those pull-offs is articulated. It's not, it's, okay. Sorry, I'm only bending the 1 fret again. So it's kind of like, okay, so we're hearing, we're resolving to that, we're targeting that F chord, F note, which is the 5 of the chord we're playing into, which is that B flat. Okay? So 1 fret bend, then to the D note, up to that F, then real fast, again, so that's a little quick pull-off trill kind of thing from the G to this G sharp. And then a quick little hammer on from C up to D from the 10th to 12th fret on the D string, okay? So all in. And then one last little bit of these little pull-offs. Again, we're articulating each of those three notes consecutively from D down to C chromatically. Okay? Okay, so you want to think straight F major over these three chords. So that's F6 with the little tiny lead-in note from this E. And then we're going to come to the root over top of, well actually it's not the root, it's the minor third of our D chord. Okay, and now, so that's resolving. We're doing this one note gliss from C sharp up into, right? But we're not glissing, we're gonna bend up, right? D. And now we're gonna do this little kind of, we're falling away and headed back to the third of our F chord, but along the way we have to imply that B flat, okay? D. That's the B flat. Something like that, right? So that's the B flat. And then we come up here, hammer onto C, and then do a little 4-note trill, well actually a 3-note trill and then 1-note slide. Okay, so there's a lot of this chromaticism in Garcia's playing, and I've co-opted it and kind of made my own version of his thing. So these aren't Garcia licks, I want to underline that, but they're definitely, you know, I mean, let's be honest, I'm trying to sound like the guy. So here it is, but it's like my take, right, on this. Okay, and then once we get the notes together, we can worry about the dynamics. That means like how long do we let them last for, and how much picking pressure do we apply with the right hand. Right? Oh, whoops, all right. So which ones do we really dig into? Which ones do we kind of pull back? Because when you pull back, when you whisper, you make people lean in to hear what you have to say, and then you pump, you give them a punch, right? And it's really an effective strategy. So key to this whole thing is that you're playing with a sound that has the ability to move within the spectrum of loud and soft. And I'm using my hand as some sort of, you know, vague analog of what I'm talking about here, but you understand what I'm saying. All right, so that's our third series of licks. So what are we playing over? Chords. We're playing over F, A minor, B flat, and then back to F. F, A minor, B flat, F. Okay, so these are going to be arpeggios, you know, with similar, I'm using a theme, this pullback. All right, I'm using that rhythmic device and applying it across all three, well, you know, three chords really, okay? So I'm coming in from E to F, like that. So sliding in with the middle to the 10th fret G string, A with the ring, index handles the C. Then ring finger rather comes down on the D and slides up to the root note. So really from whence the slide starts doesn't really matter, but that is where I do it from. So now I'm in this position to pull off these three notes like I've been doing periodically throughout the entire solo. All right, I'm gonna pull back. So I'm pulling, sliding back, and then pivoting between this A. Now the reason why we use the A is over the F chord, it's there. Over the A chord, sorry, it's there. And then we're just going to, when we get to the B flat, we're going to change that. But the idea is to use these common tones, right, to imply the shifting of the harmony. So we're going to use all the same, if there's a shared tone between the F and the A minor, which there are a ton, you have the opportunity to kind of create a double meaning, right? So every time that A note means something entirely different over the F chord, over the different root. Once we shift to that A minor sound, that sounds like home, but over the, that's the third of our F chord, but the root of our A minor chord. So here we go. So, okay, and it's important you catch that rhythm of, right? Okay, then we're going to pull back in advance, we're going into the A minor sound. See, that E note is our A minor sound. So over the A note, right, that little shape, okay, that's kind of like a D minor shape, brought up to E minor, F minor, F sharp minor, G minor, G sharp minor, A minor, see? Right? So here we go, F, A minor, okay, and now over the B flat, we're going to slide up into its major third. Okay, so we're going to slide up to this D note. Same motif though. We're just sliding less frets. And then we're doing the same little pivot lick, but rather than using the A, we're going to use this G, which is the sixth of our B flat chord. Right? So that's the third of our B flat, and now we're about to head back to F. So if you're not familiar with this chord shape, then, you know, you got some bigger problems. Probably shouldn't be tackling this until you get that under control. But this is a C chord. You brought up 2 frets and barred. D chord, 2 frets more. E chord, F chord. So I'm just walking down that chord shape, but arpeggiating and using this 1 fret slide in from the flat third of F up into A to create that whole sound. All right, what's going on there? We've got a little harmony and melody at the same time. This is the melody, you know? So it's going to be a slide up from G to A, and then a slight bend towards B flat. All right, then we're going to form a little harmony here. Now this, we're playing over the river sings sweet songs. That's G7. Right? F to G7 to B flat, back to F, right? So over the F chord we're playing melody. Okay? Then we're not gonna go to this G chord. We're gonna go to this, right? So what are we doing? It's the same notes, except we're putting this F in there, and that's what causes that 7th sound. But rather than doing it like this, right? How do you play? Well, you can't have 2 notes on the same string sound at the same time, so you have to find it. And there we put our third. So that's the root of our G chord, the flat 7 of our G chord, and that's the third. Okay, so we can, I don't know if I went, or, okay, but what's happening there is that's the G7, right? We're just starting from the third, and then coming up and hitting that shared tone, because it's actually a G7, but the melody hits that A note. So we just played that over the F, right? Now B flat, back to F. Okay, so over the B flat, we're gonna hammer on into its third while putting some harmony above it. That's the fifth of our B flat chord, that F note. We're gonna do this kind of Hendrix vibe. I think I did something like that. Okay, so find your way towards that leg. Something like that, okay? So. Now, the sound that you're hearing is that bum 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 ba da bum 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 bum. That rhythmic grouping. That's a halftime triplet. Okay, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 triplet. But it's slow, so that's why it feels. It's got that Latin thing. Bum 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 bum. Right. So I mean, I'm not really turning it into a salsa tune or anything, but you know, it's definitely happening there. Okay, so. Okay, and then we go back to straight. Okay, and that's B flat, coming up from its second into the third, see? And then we're taking this note, the B flat, and bringing it down and forming a little partial F chord. This is arguably the flashiest and most cerebral little chunk of the tune, and you know, it has kind of what I think of as a wind-up, right? There's a setup to this F note, so we're targeting that F note at the top of our thing. So we have to kind of reverse engineer where our lick is going to start, and if we start at the wrong time, we're never going to land at the right time. Okay, but the line itself starts on this G sharp note. All right, and that's playing off the flat 3 of the F chord. Right? So we're coming flat 3, 3, 5, 6, root of our F. And we're gonna jump to the G with our index finger and do. So that's all right, and connecting those two lines is going to probably be the hardest thing, because you have to feel the start of the line well before the easier one to feel is that it starts out on. All right, that F note, the placement of it is very obvious. But because it's connected to that line that precedes it, you have to think about where it starts. I believe it's on the and a 2. Okay, so 1, 2. Right? So 1, 2, and do ba do zo ba do bo ba do. Okay, so we got to think about that string of notes starting at the G sharp. So we're going F, D, A, then we're going to come to this G with, do another one. Whoops, sorry. That kind of trick again. A little 3-note pull off to the F. And then we pivot to the D note on the 15th fret B string. And then this lines us up for this kind of harmonic minor idea over top of the A7. Right? And kind of, it's also referred to as Phrygian dominant. So if you're thinking about The theory of it, basically, it's the fifth mode of the harmonic minor scale, which doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot. What I'm using it as is more like the Phrygian dominant thing. It was between two two major chords, a major third apart. And when we put that flat 7 in there, the harmony stops being like what we would think of as our normal kind of harmony. We would normally, like when we're playing over the F chord, we're thinking, but over that A chord, that doesn't sound right with that F sharp. You'd have to think. Because we're headed towards that B flat. Okay, so the idea is that we're kind of using this as a way of transitioning to our B flat chord. So over the A7 chord, we're going to take the A7 shape, actually just the A major shape, and we're going to just create a half step above each of those tones. Okay, and we're actually not even going to take it all the way down. We're going to, and then I'm going to go chromatically up into the third of our B flat chord. Okay, right. So that's where the, and then we, that kind of thing happens. So this is, I know this can get a little heady, but the good news is, it only happens once in the song, okay? So we're coming up. And now we do our little. Okay, so I'm gonna play that lick real slow. Once you get that part, okay, you don't have any more back and forths, okay? The thing that makes this sound kind of beboppy and tricky is the fact that we're going up and down and back. That little thing. So, now once we start, now it's just straight, so that's 15, 14, 15, 14, 15, 14, and then chromatically up into this partial B flat chord. Right? So that's B flat with it starting at its third. Okay? All right, so what am I doing? I'm playing over the B flat chord. To F to G, all right? So don't forget we're coming out of that Phrygian dominant, harmonic minor, whatever we want to call it. And once we come to that D note, okay, at the 17th fret A string with our ring finger, we're on the downbeat of our B flat chord. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, F to G, okay? So B flat, okay, on that D note. That D note is the third. Do, re, mi of our B flat chord. Right, so that's our downbeat, okay? Okay, so we're going to come up into a B flat arpeggio. Right, so that's going to be downbeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, all right, and then we do a little trill. All right, now that little is pretty complex, and to tell you the truth, I kind of botched it on my thing, but it was at the near the end of the solo that I improvised, so I was like, oh, well, I'll just leave that clam in there. It still sounded okay. So, but I'll teach you what I know I was trying to play. That's what I was hearing in my head, but that lick is kind of cool and groovy. All right, so if we're coming up into that D note, or I think I used the D rather than the A, but both are cool. One implies an F6, and one implies the third of the F chord. Take your pick, whichever one you prefer the sound of. So, coming in downbeat on the B flat. Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. Don't forget, this is a shuffle, right? Right? So we're playing. Right? It's really, it's swinging, right? So we got. Okay, so once we make our way up that arpeggio, that's D, F, and then B flat. That's on the D and G strings at the 15th fret. And we're going to slide up. So that's ring, ring from C to D on the G string. That's 17 to 19. Then we flatten out on 16 with our middle finger. Okay, tagging the 5th and the root of our B flat chord. We're still over the B flat chord. Okay, pinky comes down and grabs the 9 of our B flat, which is really the way I think about it is I'm anticipating I'm going into the F chord. So that's the F chord's 5th degree. So that C, that's what I'm doing. So, chromatic. Okay, so that's. I think that's what I played again with that D. Okay, and so that's D, C, and then taking the F, which is our root that we're playing over, bending it up to the G that we're about to play into. Okay, so that's B flat, F, G. It's always important that you're thinking about those milestones, like downbeat of the chord, what note am I hitting? That's just a big thing, because that's how you kind of make it from, that's how you connect the dots. You make it from one bass to the next bass to the next bass, and then finally you keep being able to connect the dots and create, you know, a winning strategy for your solo. The trick is to not always resolve lines to the 1, or, you know, you want to mix it up between the 1, the 3, the 5, and occasionally you can leave lines that have a little bit of tension on them, like they don't resolve. They don't resolve so that you feel the need to continue playing, okay? And Jeff Beck is a master of doing that, if you're into other players aside from Garcia, okay? So, now we're gonna come back and quote the melody, okay? We'll wrap it up. That's the home stretch. That's the last lick. So we're playing over F. Listen to the river, sing sweet songs. G7, right? B. B flat rather. To rock my soul. We're coming back to that F chord, okay? So over the F chord, we're going to come up into the 3rd of the F from the 2. So that's going to be up from G to A. Okay, we're going to play it right here at the 15th, high E. So that first note, hammer on and then up, down. Any way you want to do it. And then it's a 1 fret bend up to that B flat. Don't overbend it, okay? And definitely don't get it all the way to that B. You're gonna be in trouble. You want B flat on that, not B natural, okay? We're gonna shift with our ring finger back to that G so that we're in the position to be able to bend from there, okay? If you shift there, then you have to hop and it gets lumpy. So, okay, that's gonna be over the G chord. Again, that's a 1 fret bend, and that seems counterintuitive, but that's the blue note that we're going to bring in, okay, off that ghost bend. We're going to bend, pre-bend, and kind of... Okay, so F, G, B flat, F. You always want to be thinking, where am I going, okay? So F chord up from 2 into its 3rd, 4, 9, root, flat 7 over G, 7. Okay, and then over the B flat. But we're going to displace that last line to the G string, okay, 13th fret. Shift, 3rd string, pre-bend. And that last little cutesy pie harmonic I threw in there was just for fun. I actually didn't, I wasn't thinking when I did it. But what you're doing is you palm the pick, and while you're playing the F chord, make sure you're pressing down the high E string on the 1st fret. On a strat, you're going to want to come just over the pole pieces and back to where the pickup cover starts. The pole pieces are where the 12th fret. Where the 24th fret would be. So you want to go just north of that, a little, well, just this way, towards the bridge from there. So here it won't sound so good. But as we bring it to my right, it starts to come out clearer, okay? So, okay, and you pluck it with your middle finger, and you do have to, give it some good twang with that. If you mess it up, it's going to really clam at the end of your sensitive solo. So, and that's it. You just kind of lay your finger over top, and then once you pluck, you got to get it off. If you hold it down, it's gonna dead it. But you can find it, visualize it, and then place it there. That's what I did there. Okay, so. All right, that's going to wrap up today's lesson. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate all the comments and the contributions and inquiries regarding private lessons, subscriptions, all those things, all that viewer participation. It does make this worthwhile. So I really do appreciate you guys supporting my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. And hopefully one day I may actually benefit from this, from the magic algorithm that controls such things. Until then, I'm going to sign off from Brooklyn, New York. I'm Jack Devine, and thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Jacksnax. Cheers.